She stole my kids, broke my mom's heart. I got her fired, evicted. Then her letter arrived. It changed everything. My name is Michael Carter, and I never thought my life would spiral into this mess. 5 years ago, I was a regular guy in a small Ohio town, married to Sarah, raising our 2 kids, Emma and Liam. We weren't perfect, but we had a home, a life. Then the divorce hit. Sarah didn't just want out, she wanted to bury me. She accused me of domestic violence, spinning lies to the court in Columbus. Her sister backed her up, swearing I was a monster. I wasn't. But the judge didn't care. He slapped me with a restraining order and gave Sarah full custody of our kids. I was gutted, standing in that courtroom, watching my world slip away. I moved into a rundown apartment on the edge of town, barely scraping by. My savings were gone, my reputation trashed. I'd see Emma and Liam's faces in my mind every night, their laughter echoing from better days. Sarah didn't just take them. She painted me as a villain to justify it. I tried to stay calm, to follow the rules, but the anger simmered. I'd lost everything, my kids, my home, my dignity, all because of her lies. I'd call to beg for a minute with Emma and Liam, but Sarah would hang up, her voice cold as ice. The restraining order kept me caged, unable to fight back. I felt like a ghost, drifting through a life that wasn't mine anymore. Every day, I walked past families in the park, kids running to their dads, and it stabbed me in the chest. I wasn't that dad anymore. Sarah made sure of it. The injustice burned, a constant ache. I didn't know how yet, but I swore she'd pay for what she'd done. Not with violence, that's not me, but with something sharper, something that had hit her where it hurt. I lay awake at night, staring at the cracked ceiling of my apartment, plotting. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about justice, about making things right. I'd find a way to turn the tables, to make Sarah feel the weight of what she'd stolen from me. The real blow came when my mom got sick. I was still reeling from the divorce, living in that dingy Columbus apartment, when she called. Her voice was weak, trembling. Stage 4 cancer, the doctors said. 3 months, maybe less. My heart sank. Mom had been my rock, the one who held me together when Sarah tore my life apart. Now she was slipping away, and all she wanted was to see Emma and Liam one last time. I could hear the hope in her voice, picturing their little faces lighting up her hospital room. I promised I'd make it happen, no matter what. I knew contacting Sarah was risky with the restraining order, but I had to try. I called her, my hands shaking, and begged. I swore I wouldn't be in the room, just let the kids visit their dying grandma. Sarah's laugh cut through the phone like a knife. Not a chance, she said, her voice dripping with venom. They're not going anywhere near her. Then she hung up. I stood there, frozen, my chest tight, but it got worse. Sarah called the cops, reporting me for violating the order. Before I knew it, I was in handcuffs, dragged to a cell. The judge was sympathetic but firm, 4 months in jail for the breach. I sat in that cold, gray cell, counting the days, knowing Mom was fading. She died while I was locked up. I didn't get to say goodbye, didn't get to hold her hand. Sarah didn't just deny Mom her last wish. She made sure I couldn't be there either. The news hit me like a freight train. I stared at the cell wall, tears burning my eyes, rage boiling inside. Sarah had taken my kids, my freedom, and now my chance to grieve. The pain was raw, unbearable. I couldn't let it go. That moment, that loss, lit a fire in me. I wasn't just angry I was done playing by the rules. Sarah would feel this pain, one way or another. I'd make sure of it. When I walked out of that Ohio jail, the world felt different. The air was heavy, like it was pressing down on me. 4 months behind bars had hollowed me out. I had no job, no home, just a criminal record, and a burning hatred for Sarah. My family had turned their backs on me long before Mom died. No calls, no visits. I was alone, carrying the weight of her death, and the kids I couldn't see. Emma and Liam's faces haunted me, but so did Sarah's cruel laugh, echoing from that phone call. I found a rundown apartment on the outskirts of Columbus, a cramped, moldy place on the wrong side of town. The landlord didn't ask questions, just took my last $500 for the deposit. The walls were thin, the ceiling leaked, and the heater buzzed but gave no warmth. I lay on the floor that first night, staring at cracks in the plaster, my mind racing. How had it come to this? I'd been a good father, a decent man, but Sarah's lies stripped it all away. The anger wasn't loud anymore. It was cold, sharp, like a blade in my chest. I needed to survive, to rebuild, but more than that, I needed to make Sarah pay. Not with fists, I wasn't that guy, but with something smarter, something that had hit her hard. I spent days walking the streets, looking for work. Every door I knocked on slammed shut when they saw my record. Sorry, we can't take the risk, they'd say, their eyes avoiding mine. My savings were gone, and I was living off cheap noodles and tap water. The emptiness grew, but so did my resolve. Sarah was out there, living her life, while I scraped by in this pit. That thought fueled me. Each night, I'd collapse on my thin mattress, the springs digging into my back, and plan. I didn't care about right or wrong anymore. I just wanted her to feel the same desperation I did, to lose everything like I had. The fire in my gut kept me going. I'd find a way to turn her world upside down, just as she'd done to mine. The fire in my gut burned hotter every day. Sarah had taken everything, my kids, my mom's final moments, my freedom. Now, I was ready to fight back. I started digging, piecing together her life from the shadows. A friend mentioned she was managing a trendy boutique boutique in downtown Columbus, a cozy little shop called Bella's. It was perfect, her cushy job, her pride. I'd hit her there first. I wasn't going to confront her. The restraining order made that impossible, but I could ruin her from a distance, make her feel the ground crumble beneath her, just like I had. I scraped together $50 and bought a beat-up laptop from a pawn shop on High Street. It was slow, the keys sticky, but it'd do. I set it up in my cramped apartment, the dim light flickering as I worked. My plan was simple but sharp. Fake online reviews to tank her reputation at the boutique. I'd make her look like the worst manager in Ohio. I spent hours creating fake social media profiles, each one a different character, believable enough to fool anyone. It wasn't just about writing bad reviews. They had to feel real, like actual customers with grudges. I stayed up late, the laptop's hum filling the silence, my anger pushing me forward. Every profile needed a story, a life. I built them carefully: names, birthdays, hobbies, even photos pulled from random corners of the internet. My hands trembled as I typed, not from fear, but from anticipation. This was my first step toward justice. Sarah thought she could destroy me and walk away clean. She was wrong. I leaned back in my rickety chair, staring at the screen, picturing her smug smile fading when her perfect little world started to crack. The thought of her scrambling, confused, filled me with a grim satisfaction. This wasn't about petty revenge. It was about balancing the scales. She'd taken my family, my peace. Now I'd take something of hers. The laptop glowed in the dark, my only ally. I cracked my knuckles and got to work, ready to make her pay. I sat in my dim apartment, the laptop screen casting a pale glow across the room. My fingers hovered over the keys, ready to strike. I'd created 3 fake profiles, each one a weapon aimed at Sarah's job at Bella's boutique. The first was Karen, a middle-aged mom who loved her poodle and floral dresses. She'd be the kind of customer Sarah would charm, but I'd make her a nightmare. The second was Jake, a tech-savvy 20-something with a short fuse, quick to slam bad service online. The third was Frank, a grizzled army vet whose complaints carried weight. Each profile was airtight photos, backstories, even fake hobbies. No one would suspect they weren't real. I started with Karen's review. The manager, Sarah, snapped at me when I asked about a return. Worst service ever. Short, sharp, believable. Jake's was harsher. Sarah rolled her eyes when I questioned a price. Never shopping here again. Frank's hit hardest. Disrespected a veteran. Unacceptable. I posted them on every review site I could find: Google, Yelp, even the boutique's social media. My heart pounded as I hit submit, imagining Sarah's face when her boss saw them. But it wasn't enough. I kept going, crafting new complaints every night. Sarah ignoring customers, Sarah being rude, Sarah making snide remarks. Each one chipped away at her perfect image. The anger surged as I typed, memories of Mom's weak voice begging to see Emma and Liam flooding back. Sarah's cold laugh, her betrayal, fueled every word. I pictured her in that boutique, clueless, while I dismantled her world. My eyes burned from the screen. My back ached from hunching over, but I didn't stop. This was for Mom, for the months I spent in that cell, for the kids I couldn't hold. By the time I finished, I'd posted dozens of reviews, each one a dagger. I leaned back, my chest tight with a mix of rage and grim satisfaction. Sarah thought she was untouchable, sitting pretty in her cozy job. She was about to learn how wrong she was. I closed the laptop, the room dark again, and waited for the fallout. The reviews worked like a slow poison. Every night, I checked Bella's boutique's online ratings, watching the stars drop. My fake profiles, Karen, Jake, Frank, and a dozen others had done their job. Customers complained about Sarah's rudeness, her unprofessional attitude, her snide comments. I'd crafted each one carefully, making sure they stung but felt real. My heart raced every time I saw a new one stick, imagining Sarah's confusion as her perfect little world unraveled. She had no idea I was behind it, pulling the strings from my dingy Columbus apartment. It took weeks, but the complaints piled up. The boutique's owner, a woman named Claire, couldn't ignore the flood of bad press. I heard through a friend who stopped by the shop that Claire was livid, grilling Sarah about the reviews. Sarah denied everything, of course, probably spinning her usual lies, but the damage was done. Customers stopped coming, scared off by the 1-star ratings. Claire had to act. One morning, my friend texted me, "Sarah's gone, fired." I sat on my creaky chair, staring at the message, a grin creeping across my face. It felt good, like a weight lifting off my chest. Sarah had taken my mom's last moments, my kids, my freedom. Now I'd taken her job. I pictured her standing outside Bella's, her face pale, her hands shaking as she realized she was out. No more cozy office, no more playing the charming manager. She'd feel the sting of failure, the same way I did when I lost everything. But this wasn't enough. I wanted her to hurt more, to know what it was like to have nothing. The satisfaction was real, but it was fleeting. As I sat in the dark, the laptop's glow fading, Mom's voice echoed in my head, weak and pleading. Sarah's cruelty had cost me so much. Losing her job was just the start. I leaned back, my pulse steady, my mind already turning to the next step. She'd taken my family. I'd take her stability. The game wasn't over yet. I cracked my knuckles, ready to keep going, to make her pay for every tear I'd shed. With Sarah's job gone, I turned my sights to her home, the house we'd bought together together in better days, a cozy two-story in a quiet Columbus suburb. It was her sanctuary, her pride, and I wanted it gone. The thought of her losing it, just like I'd lost everything, sent a twisted thrill through me. I started digging through public records online, late at night in my dim apartment, the laptop's hum my only company. After days of searching, I hit gold. Sarah was behind on her property taxes, about $3,000 in arrears, not a fortune, but enough to cause trouble if someone nudged the right people. I crafted an anonymous email, posing as a concerned neighbor, and sent it to the city's tax office. "The house at 142 Maple Drive looks abandoned," I wrote. "Weeds everywhere, paint peeling. Can someone check?" I knew they'd investigate, and sure enough, they did. The inspection found minor code violations, cracked siding, an overgrown lawn, nothing major, but enough to flag her with the HOA. I grinned, imagining her opening that violation notice, her stomach dropping. But I wasn't done. I had an old high school buddy, Tom, who worked as a code enforcement officer. We hadn't talked in years, but I called him up, reminiscing about old times. Then I slipped him $200 to expedite Sarah's case. He didn't ask questions, just said he'd handle it. Within weeks, the violations and unpaid taxes snowballed. Sarah got an eviction notice, giving her 30 days to vacate. I pictured her standing in that house, surrounded by boxes, her world collapsing. It felt like justice, like the scales were finally tipping. She'd taken my kids, my mom's last moments. Now she'd lose the roof over her head. My heart raced with a dark satisfaction, but a pang of guilt hit me too. Emma and Liam were still in that house. Would this hurt them? I pushed the thought aside. This was about Sarah, about making her feel the pain she'd caused. I leaned back, the apartment's leaky ceiling dripping above me, and planned my next move. She wasn't down yet, but I was getting closer. The eviction notice hit Sarah like a brick, and I savored every second of imagining it. I pictured her standing in the living room of our old house on Maple Drive, clutching that official letter, her hands trembling. The city had moved fast, thanks to my anonymous tip and Tom's help with the code violations. The $3,000 in unpaid property taxes, combined with the HOA's fines for the unkempt lawn and cracked siding, was enough to seal her fate. She had 30 days to pack up and get out. No job, no savings, nowhere to go. I leaned back in my creaky chair, the dim light of my Columbus apartment flickering, and felt a surge of dark triumph. She was finally tasting the despair she'd forced on me. I kept tabs through a neighbor who owed me a favor. He said Sarah was a mess, scrambling to find a new place, her face pale and drawn. The kids, Emma and Liam, were confused, asking why they had to leave their home. That stung me for a moment. My kids didn't deserve this chaos, but I pushed the guilt down. This was about Sarah, about her paying for Mom's last moments, for the months I rotted in a cell, for the lies that stole my family. She'd laughed when I begged for the kids to see Mom. Now she was the one begging, pleading with the city for more time. They didn't listen. The day she moved out, my neighbor sent me a photo. Sarah loading boxes into a beat-up van, her eyes red, her hair a mess. I stared at it, my heart pounding. The house we'd once dreamed of raising our kids in was hers no more. She was jobless, homeless, just like I'd been when I walked out of jail. The scales were balancing, and it felt damn good. But as I sat in the dark, the leaky ceiling dripping above me, a hollow feeling crept in. Was this enough? I'd taken her job, her home, but Emma and Liam were still with her. I wanted them back. The game wasn't over. I cracked my knuckles, my mind already spinning toward the next move. With Sarah jobless and homeless, I saw my chance to take back what mattered most, my kids, Emma and Liam. I loved them more than anything, and Sarah's lies had kept them from me for too long. I wasn't going to let her win this one. I hired a lawyer, a sharp guy named David Brooks, who knew how to play the game in a Columbus courtroom. He cost me every penny I'd scraped together from my convenience store job, but it was worth it. We built a case to show Sarah was unfit, a mother with no job, no home, and no stability. I, on the other hand, had clawed my way back. I had a steady job, a small but clean apartment, and a determination to be the father my kids deserved. The courtroom was tense, the air thick with anticipation. I sat there, my hands clenched, watching Sarah across the room. She looked worn out, her eyes hollow, her clothes rumpled. She tried to fight back, spinning sob stories about losing her job and home, even hinting I was behind it all. But David was relentless. He painted me as a reformed man, someone who'd made mistakes but had rebuilt his life for his kids. He hammered Sarah's instability, her eviction, her unemployment, her inability to provide. I kept my face calm, but inside, my heart pounded with a mix of hope and vengeance. This was my moment. Sarah's lawyer threw out desperate arguments, but they fell flat. The judge's eyes were cold, focused on facts. I had a paycheck, a lease, a plan. Sarah had nothing but excuses. When the gavel came down, granting me full custody, I felt a rush like nothing else. Sarah's face crumpled, her shoulders shaking as she realized she'd lost Emma and Liam. I'd won. The kids were mine again. As I left the courthouse, the weight of years lifted, replaced by a grim satisfaction. Sarah had taken my family, my freedom, my mom's last moments. Now I'd taken her kids. But as I drove back to my apartment, a flicker of doubt crept in. Would Emma and Liam hate me for this? I pushed it aside. This was justice. Winning custody felt like a victory. victory, but the reality hit hard. Emma and Liam moved into my small Columbus apartment, their eyes distant, their voices quiet. They missed Sarah, asking for her every day, and it cut deeper than I expected. I'd thought getting them back would fill the void, erase the pain of losing Mom, of those months in jail, but seeing their sad faces, I felt a knot in my stomach. They didn't trust me, not yet. I'd torn their world apart to hurt Sarah, but I was hurting them too. That wasn't what I wanted. I lay awake at night, the leaky ceiling dripping, and realized I was becoming the monster Sarah had painted me as. I loved my kids too much to let this continue. Denying them their mom would make me no better than her when she kept them from Mom's bedside. I reached out to my sister, Claire, the one family member who hadn't abandoned me. She was hesitant, but agreed to help. Through her, I offered Sarah a deal. The kids could see her on weekends. I wouldn't talk to Sarah myself, too much bad blood, but I wanted Emma and Liam to have their mom. Claire met with Sarah, passing on my proposal. Sarah agreed, desperate to see them. The first drop-off was awkward. I saw her from the car, standing outside her cheap rental, her face worn but hopeful. I nodded, she nodded back. No words, just a moment of truce. Over time, the kids brightened. They'd come back from Sarah's with stories, smiles. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. I still hated Sarah for what she'd done Mom's death, the lies, the jail time, but I didn't want to hate myself. Co-parenting wasn't about forgiveness. It was about Emma and Liam growing up with some kind of stability. My apartment felt less empty with their laughter, even if it took months to earn their trust. I'd won my revenge, taken Sarah's job, her home, her kids, but in the end, giving them a piece of their mom back felt like the only way to make things right, not just for them, but for me.